Hello, I want to welcome to the Butterfly Effect Sandra Fazio, and she is an author, a coach, and she also does human design. And she's a speaker as well. So
Here
welcome.
I
Thank
am.
you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure to connect with you.
Oh, thank you, Karissa. It's all my pleasure. It's beautiful to connect with like souls and to do these kinds of interactions to help, awaken and support people on their path. So
Yes.
absolutely
And
wouldn't
you've
miss the
had,
opportunity.
yeah, you've had an amazing journey, and I'm just so excited to share it with everybody. So I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and what led you to where you're at.
Sure.
And yeah.
Do we have about 40 years? It's quite the path. I say that with love, of course. So this is always the fun challenge to try to summarize and be comprehensive in one's path, but I will do my best and try to make it succinct and enjoyable for those listening. And so my journey, well, I believe my whole life I've been preparing for this exact moment, just here with you, obviously, and all through the time leading up and all that's to come. When I really look at how life has unfolded, the experiences I've been given, and the journey I've been traversing. So consciously, I should say, though, the endeavoring of my path to awakening happened upon the breakthrough of motherhood. So up until late 30s, I became a mom close to 40. I was 39. I was going about my merrily away, and I was fitting into the forms of life. I was, going through school and then graduated and got my degree and then did the corporate thing and worked my tail off and really tried to confine myself in all these constructive boxes called society. And I did fairly okay. I thrived. I did well. I did, I got a career at the time that I felt suited me to the degree that it did. And yet there was always a tingle in my core that said, there's something bigger, there's something more. And this isn't the end all be all for you. You're going to have something happen that's probably going to really take you to the next level and catapult you. So again, an inner knowing. And society wants to say, well, how did you know mentally? And I just invite people to say, because our bodies know. And so here I am. I got married later in life in my mid 30s. And I was fine all the way up until then. I wasn't even really, looking to get married. If I did, I did. It wasn't the end all be all, but I, met my life partner. And we tried for a couple years having a child, just kind of like most people, especially in your 30s. There's a lot of stress and struggle and a lot of anxiety that comes with the ticking of the clock. And so we fell right into that paradigm of, checking the time and the
Yeah.
month and the day. And so 2.5 years into the effort of trying, I actually had an anxiety attack before I actually conceived, which was in and of itself crazy. I couldn't have even known that. So my anxiety attack, it was like a panic attack. There was so much going on in my life. I was putting my 20-year high school alumni reunion together.
Yeah.
We were purchasing a home. We were going to Hawaii for my spouse's sister's wedding. There was so much going on. And then boom, I got pregnant. I share this not to bore you with details, but to kind of give you the entry point in which motherhood happened for me. Okay. Because up until this point, I boxed myself in the typified corporate, structured, A-type, perfectionist, black and white, color coded, very linear way.
Yeah.
And so one can imagine if you've been living so much in that zone, and then all of a sudden you get pregnant in that moment, you're like, here it is. This was the moment. Like, this truly is when the universe was like, all right, we're moving you into some bigger pasture. So
Yeah.
brace yourself. So my pregnancy went well for the most part. At the very end, I ended up having what they called a partial previa. So I had a lot of hemorrhaging issues, and it was scary. And I share again all this because it is really kind of what predicated this like shocking awakening into motherhood. Because up until then, Sandra kind of thought everything was going to go a certain way. And I was like, well, I'm a corporate person and I have all these things, itemized, and this child's going to just follow this rule,
Yeah.
this agenda, this spreadsheet. I mean, how lucky is she? I mean, I've got her whole life ready to go. Like, she just has to show up,
Yeah.
And she came early. So there was a partial previa for me, and then it catapulted her to come early. So really, I went into thinking she was coming on a certain day, and she came a month early, and then an actual day before the actual day that I was scheduled for the C-section. So that jolted me into high anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, OMG, here we are. It's time to like really wake up.
Yeah.
So the first year and a half to 2 years were tough. I was still in culture shock. I mean, people can tell you all day long that, children are going to change you. Wait till you're a mom.
Yeah.
Well, little do we know what kid we're going to get. It's not even just the concept or the idea or the notion of being a parent. It's like, okay, well, it's interesting to realize the very unique being you were given. And so I went about, I finished working for about a good year. And then about right when she turned 1, I quit my job. I just knew there was, again, another instinctive knowing that I need to let go, because there's something here that the universe is asking and calling of me to be for this particular child. And I'm truly blessed and grateful that I paid attention to that whisper. I don't even know that I would be sitting here with you today, having done the work that guided me up to now,
Yeah.
if I just ran over that and just continued the corporate world, just, because it's what I was doing all along. So I endeavored I endeavored that knowing, and quit my job cold turkey, and really trusted. Well, it wasn't until about she was 3, and my husband and I, we could see at the onset that there were just some things that didn't feel, and I'm so conscious anymore of words, so everything has to have a bracket around it. But like, we didn't feel that there were some things that felt not normal. And
Yeah.
we don't know, we're new parents, but
Mm-hmm.
we were wise enough to kind of understand a few things. So what we realized is like, there were some like foundational struggles here emotionally. There were things going on, like she was tippy-toeing. But then at 2.5, she was like counting to 50, I mean, things that were just like, what in the world? Like, is this what every kid does? I don't know. I think I mean, I don't know. I think it's cool, but at the same time, I'm like, but why is this way? And this, so there was a lot of inquisitiveness going on. And, needless to say, it brought me to a point that I knew I had to really go on a quest and figure things out. So we endeavored this path quite some time, and we'd gone through like a psychologist. We did little child psychiatry, like all these things at the onset, because I didn't know. And this, leads me to some of the work I'm doing today, because I was a desperate mother seeking to feel normal and to have this normalcy and to just enjoy this journey called motherhood that I had long awaited for, because it was like this prize fantasy in my mind. And then what we were being shown felt much heavier and intense and anxiety ridden. And you feel alone in that, especially being an older parent. A lot of my friends, their kids were either in grade school, or some of them were even graduating high school at that point. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
they started right out of school, right? So it led me on this path. And about 2 years after, this is where the work of conscious parenting kind of came into my harmonic alignment of life. So Dr. Shafali Sabari, she's the author of many books, but the one most known is The Conscious Parent. She was on Oprah in May of 14. And I remember as clear as day, as if yesterday, I was just standing in the kitchen making minestrone soup, and I had, Oprah in the background. And she said something along the lines like, if you're a parent, this show is for you. And at that point, I had definitely reached my knees, and been asking the universe for a lot of guidance and support. And that was the blessing. That really put me on the trajectory of this catapultic awakening. So I endeavored conscious parenting like no other. It's funny, I've become, close with Shefali over the years, and she had made light of it to some degree because I was a part of her talks and her events, and she worked with me one-on-one, and I was, working with her as a part of her team at the very beginning. And she always said, I didn't write the book called The Super Conscious Parent. I wrote The Conscious Parent.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from one extreme to the other, because I had found what I thought was like the ever answering questions, answers to my questions. And that was the entry point of this, okay, let's do this thing called life, and let's bring a voice to it, because I know I'm not alone, and I'm not going to feel shameful. And Lord knows, like, this child called me into her life, and I called her into my life, because we have something here to offer. And we're going to have to figure this out in this way. So the platform of the Conscious Parenting blog began. I started that on Facebook. For 30 days straight, if I'm not mistaken, I remember opening up the Conscious Parent book, and I would write something every day for 30 days. And I just put it out there, and I just built an audience. There was a resonance at that point. And I know this has been like a good 5 or so years since, and it's getting more momentum now because of the times and where our energy is shifting and where the frequency of our children are coming in at. But then it was still a new movement. I was still kind of like semi-alone ranger in the realm of being a mom that was willing to put a big voice to this experience and call herself out. So I did that, and that became the onset to my inner healing, because the foundation of conscious parenting is less to do with parenting the kid and all about parenting your own inner child. And when you get really clear about excavating that part of your inner being, and you recognize your wounds and your patterns and your belief systems and your ego and all these other elements, when you can clean that up, then you're less likely to project that onto your child. And you can bet I did a lot of indirect projection.
Yeah.
And always with love in my mind. I was like the highest intention of service, but it didn't always come out that way. And even to this day, I do this work very, significantly. And I'm still always vacillating between consciousness and unconscious, because so that's where I was on the conscious parenting journey. I don't want to just talk straight. I'd love to kind of.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you want to share the book? You actually ended up writing a book about or that had to do with your daughter and the relationship. Do you want to share what that is? Because
so it was almost like a compendium, like a compilation of these blogs that I was writing over a course of over a year and a half. And, I would just post them just very freely on Facebook, no intention of doing anything other than just putting a voice to it for me, feeling a resonance of healing, sharing it with the world, offering some, support to other people. And then somewhere along the path, it was, my husband said, why don't you like put this somewhere in a form like where people can read? So I did my very first self-publishing with Lulu, and I just compiled everything, and I put it in a very, I don't even know if I have a copy. I have to go grab it, but it's a small little book called The Diaries of a Conscious Parent. It's very long subtitle, but it's one mother's journey to raising herself through her daughter's essence, because that's really what that was for me. And so it represents insight to taking the teachings and practices of conscious parenting and putting them into like everyday living play. And I did that with all different things, consciousness, but primarily I would talk about my struggles, my stress, the anxieties, the belief systems, boundaries, you name it. And I made that available for people at the time. And now it's something that I'm going to offer to your audience here today, as just a window into what it looked like for me at the onset, in case somebody else is right at that point, in their journey.
Well, thank you. Everything that we've shared, every interaction, and all the things that you've shared with me have been powerful. I've got to feel your heart in them. So I hope everybody gets to take advantage of that. We'll mention it again at the end, but yeah, thank you. I'm excited for that. I would love to share a little bit about your journey with, sorry, human design and how that came into your life, and share a little bit about it, because for me, I've only touched on it a little bit, and we got to talk about it the other day, and I'm like, I love this. Like people get to hear about this and understand that they could understand themselves a little bit better through this. And what has that done for you in your life?
So I love that we're bringing this up, and, you know, full transparency. I mean, this is my very first experience in sharing this with an audience. So I'm grateful for the platform, and it gives me an opportunity to bring a true voice in this kind of way. Though I do sessions and I share that same zest and eagerness and passion in every session that I do, and every foundation reading that I do. Okay. So fast forward, life's happening, conscious parenting's going on. I'm doing coaching. I'm supporting families. I'm interacting with communities and whatnot. So to know myself prior to anything called human design, I've always been a seeker, a student of life, and a student of truth, like a truth searcher, you know, a truth seeker. So my frequency, my energy, you know, speaks that like in the universe. It knows, like, Sandra's seeking, Sandra's looking, Sandra's growing and evolving. So no matter where I've come or what kind of interceptive work I've done to align to some of those teachings, like coaching, it's never been this idea that, oh, I've arrived and I've got all the answers now and we are just good. I'm just going to focus on conscious parenting. I've got all my answers.
Yeah.
I say that just very humbly, and also just that this is the nature of my being. And there'd be no mistake that the universe senses this. And so about 2 years ago, close to 2 years ago, I was at my daughter's school in the lobby. There would be no coincidence that this particular mom happens to share the 2 words called human design as I'm sitting there in the lobby. And I'm not known to be quiet. I'm not this, like, you know, Larry, I'm not a, you know, I'm a social person, and I also know kind of where to insert my presence. But this particular moment, I wasn't saying anything. It's not like we were chit-chatting and I was, you know, yapping about life. She approached me and she just kind of said something like, she got like a feeling, like a sense. And she goes, have you heard of human design? And I go, like, every part of my, I still feel it when I say that, like, ding, 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 ding. Like every part of me just like fireworks went off inside. And it was like, as if my soul was waiting for that moment. She's heard these 2 words now. Like, this is another entry point.
Yeah.
And I said, no, but I love what I'm hearing. Just 2 words called human design. It's like, hungry. I want more.
Yeah.
And she shared me like a couple things on social media, and no joke, Karissa, like that moment on, to the point that like my family's a little tired of me right now. Cause like, just a part of, they're just like,
I love you and I'm not tired of it.
Thank you. But they're like, get over this whole, you know, and I'm like, whatever. It's okay. I'm so in my empowerment now. I'm like, whatever, you know, think what you want. I know who I am. You know? So there's like a liberation.
Yeah.
But I devoured, like I came home, I think for 4 hours, I laid on the couch and I was like researching, scrolling, Googling, you know, seeking all this stuff. And I was like, that's it. Just like conscious parenting met me divinely, like hearing Oprah and where I was and where I was declaring to the universe I needed help. And just where somehow the resonance of my energy was saying to the universe at that time too, like, I'm ready for more, I'm ready to grow, like, bring it on, here we go, next round, you know, it's like, okay, here. And so I took that on, I devoured it in a way that I honestly didn't even realize how well I was comprehending it. Okay. So this is something that human design helped me overcome. Because the very thing it taught me was the very uniqueness in that like cognitive architecture that I do have, that I'm here to just like digest, absorb, and like be this well, right? And like things will come out of me as they come out of me in the places and environments that they're, you know, aligned to.
What part of human design told you that about yourself?
Oh, it's a very advanced part on the chart that I have yet to really like learn, but I've done enough foundational scratching of the surface, but it's the arrows. It's all the arrows that show up in different graphs. But essentially human design, just to kind of like bring it back to the basics for those listening, is it's an integration using your time of birth, precisely your time of birth, right? Not just like some shot in the dark. I think it was at 11, but it could be AM or PM, and that could change everything, right?
Yeah.
So really knowing your exact time is like as most important than anything. Of course, your date, time, year, and location. And that's it. It just takes that into that formula, depending on the program that you put it into, right? There's different graphs and things that you can go to, like mybodygraph.com is one. A lot of these systems are free, but then of course to interpret it requires downloads or a reader, or maybe your own searching there. It's up to you. I hired like 5 readers, like after I like paid everybody. I want to hear 5 different versions of your interpretation of my chart, so I was totally open to that. And what happens is when you get this birth information, what makes it so unique and different than anything out there ever, and it's been around for truly over 30 years, but it's like anything, just like this summit is meeting the divine timing of where people are in the transformation of their life. Maybe 10 years ago, it would have had a harder time. People would have been a little resistant. Now it's like everyone's like, the word transformation is like saying, popcorn, like it's mainstream. Like it's not this woo-woo thing anymore. So human design has kind of intercepted divinely right now where we are on this, trajectory of awakening. But it's been around for 30 years. And there's been a lot of people learning the teachings of this from the founder that it channeled into long ago. Essentially, though, it's a synthesis. It's an integration using the time of birth, location, date, year, and whatnot. And it envelops 4 like ancient wisdom, esoteric teachings that are based on astrology, the Chinese I Ching, Tree of Life Kabbalah, and the chakra Hindu system. Okay, those 4. But then on the other side, the science side, it encompasses the human genetic codons, which is our DNA, and the neutrino streams. And this has a lot to do with like things that are happening atmospherically from the stars and the field energy that's coming through us all the time based on what's happening in a celestial space. And so you enter your information, and it's not only giving you the physical side of your imprinting based on your birth info, it's actually calculating 3 months prior to when you were born. It's the only system that integrates your soul incarnation married with your personality, your physical form, and gives you this like overarching imprinting of your map, your gifts, the wiring, your auric wiring, your energy, the way your energy works, and how you're here to live correctly in who you are, the decisions you make, how your energy is here to engage with the world. There's so many nuances and specifics. There's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down and lose yourself in. And it's one of the greatest things. So when I started hearing this and I was doing like this search, it brought so much clarity and liberation and truth and knowing and permission. And it just kept me more grounded in everything that I already knew. It was like, of course, that's how I am. Now that makes more sense. All the places I've been living falsely is because that's not part of my design. It's not the way I came here to be. I can see how that has impeded me in getting to the core of my truth.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a high level. But I would love to share any more that you
Yeah. Well, I love that you shared all that, like just, the science, and just because like a lot of people are new to this, and I mean, for me, I definitely had a little bit of doubt. I've always been open. Like, I was always curious. Like, I've had friends that were like, you know, whose parents were psychic, and like they were like, oh, I could read your palm, and I was like, yeah, but like I was like a little nervous about it, but I was curious. Were you, like, as far as like any of this stuff goes, did you ever experience any doubt or anything about it, or was it just like, this is it, like this is for me? It was just that knowing.
Amen. And up to this point, I had no fear, or like I would always endeavor psychics and readers. I've done
Yeah.
all that all my years up until, 2 years ago. Like that, I've got recordings from like the 90s,
Uh-huh.
I was, again, it's the seeker. And my
Yeah.
human design shows me I have this particular energy field in my head center, in my inspiration center. It's called the gate of inner truth.
Yeah.
It literally was like everything. Of course, I've always sought the inner truth of all things, first
Yeah.
for me and for the world. And
Mm-hmm.
so absolutely, this was like gold the minute I heard this. So I will just say that, you can, not you, a person who's really called to this. And I know, just like it's in my design, like you're here to guide people, you're here to empower people, you're here to share your
Yes.
voice. You're
Yeah.
here. This is why you've gone through your trials and tribulations. Like these are your gifts, right? So human design carries kind of um, masculine energy to it. It's more mechanically,
Yeah.
foundational. So there's another part to this that I've recently endeavored, because again, the search is never over. So long as I'm breathing,
Yeah.
I'm out there discovering. And again, things come because like you're ready, your soul's done this work, and it's like, good, you're more ready. So we're going
Mm-hmm.
to keep giving.
Yeah.
And so gene keys is another aspect that I'm learning to bring together with the collective of human design, because gene keys is actually something that was extrapolated from human design by the student himself at the time, named Richard Rudd, who was a student of human design. He had his own questions. He wanted to know more. He wanted to ponder things a little bit in a way that felt aligned to him. And he had his own kind of awakening download, and gene keys came into him. And over a good 7 years, he had to like put all this together, and he wrote a 600-page book. And he's still here. The founder of human design has left us, I think in 2005, but Richard Rudd is an active participant in his teachings of gene keys. And the difference with gene keys, but yet the symmetry, is that when you look at human design, there's all these numbers that are happening in these respective energy centers called the chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
And these numbers are rooted in the I Ching that have to do with like specific codes of life and all the programming behind each of these codes. And the I Ching is like 5,000 years old.
Yeah.
So this isn't just some woo-woo, somebody had nothing to do and I just want to like put together a system.
Yeah.
This is a true gift
Mm-hmm.
from the universe. And the universe is saying we're all ready for it, because
Yeah.
we're all evolving now.
Yes.
So here we come, right? And the gene keys specifically hones in on these 64 numbers. And the beauty I love about gene keys, respective to human design, because they both have great offerings, you can kind of move with the gene keys. It's what's known as like a living organism. And it really helps you to transmute the frequencies of these DNA codes from shadow to gift to city. And that's spelled SIDDHI, which is like the essence. And we're all wired, we're all imprinted with the highest essence of these frequencies from the moment our soul incarnated and came into this body. But we've forgotten this because there's this thing called life and conditioning and the mind. And the mind has kind of taken us away from the body's intelligence.
Yeah.
So these gifts, both combined, human design and gene keys, bring us back into the intelligence, the wiring, the auric energy, the DNA coding, the living wisdom within us, so we can all live our greatest, highest purpose and recognize our genius. It's beyond anything.
Yes. I love it.
I get so giddy, if you can't tell. And I'm telling you 1%, like there's so much
Yeah.
more to share.
Yeah, there is so much more. I mean, that's the beauty of this. When I started digging into well, my first experience was being guided to a pranic healing course, and I was like, energy, like I can feel this, I can heal somebody from across the world. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like there's so much, like, and I kept digging and digging and seeking more and more and realizing that there is so much in this world to support us in understanding who we are. And
It's beyond the mind's capacity, Karissa. See, that's where we've limited ourselves. And if we just kind of come back to a notion of basic insight, which is we're all energy. We're all made from energy. We've just taken form in this body called physical life.
Yeah.
And when we can understand the magnitude of energy, and you said it to me when we talked, and I was like resounding yes, that energy is everything.
Yeah.
It really is everything. You and I we don't have to even be in physical space, and we can feel energy. People in your audience will sense an energy, right? And even just walking into any room, in any place or space, you can get a feeling without anybody talking. Does this feel right? How is my body responding to this? So back to real quickly, like human design, it teaches us how to live correctly back from the awareness of that intelligence, because we're all wired differently. And there's a lot of variations of human design. Like we're not all here. First of all, we're not here to be the same, but we've been taught that we have to be the same.
Yeah.
Like we're some homogenized cattle field that we all have to think, look, act, and be the same. And the minute somebody even reflects their uniqueness, now they question themselves, like, what's wrong with me? Because most of society says that feels not normal. That's why earlier when I said normal, like,
what is normal?
I was part of the group. My kid's not normal. Now I can see, even looking at Herman's design, I'm like, why didn't I have this when she was 3? This would have helped me so much, you know? So I just invite anybody who's even got a tickle of an interest or an inkling to endeavor this. Be open. The possibilities are limitless, and you will find yourself in ways that will bring you tears. Actually, it's that moving.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, for me, there's been, of course, just so much in my life that's kept me from accepting myself and expressing myself. And that's why I'm so passionate about this and everything else that I've learned, and discovering energy is everything. Because it could help you, support you in understanding all of this. It for me, clicked more when I understood the energy. And there's just so many people out there that could use the support, and really like letting go of a lot of stuff that's not serving them, that we've accumulated over the years through the trauma and stuff, and not being able to be who we are.
Because our cells hold this trauma, you know, and this is the shadow that needs to be like let free, so that the highest transmutation of that cell can reach its gift and its essence and its wholeness and whatnot. So human design kind of focuses a lot, to the degree that the man that it came into and how he taught it was all about learning how to decondition out of the not self, out of who we aren't. And Gene Keys kind of reminds us where to go back into the gifts and the genius and the living wisdom there that's been there always. And so for me, it's a blend of both. It's a preference though. Some people, they the way that their logic is, or the way that they, you know, take in information, one system may serve them better depending on how their hemispheres process. Somebody like me, I take on both. It's just my nature. And I'm grateful that I'm wired this way, because then I can bring both, and then I can invite people to say, find what works for you. I'm not this expert. I'm a vessel. I'm a portal. I'm a channel. I'm here to just guide and usher and show you, because I've walked it, not because I've like mastered anything. I'm
I
like,
love that.
as faulty as all on a given day.
Yes.
No matter what line of work I do. Okay. I'm here to tell you, I hold no professional like expert of any kind. And I get like the world we live in has to have something sometimes, but I just go with it and play with it. I don't like take it on personally. You know, I
Yeah.
like to stay relatable to people in everything that I do and discover.
Well, that's good. That's how you're going to connect with so many people and support so many people on your journey, being able to be human.
Right, darn thing. You know, I know I've been often told you're flying up here too high. You come back down to earth, you know,
Oh,
like, and it's easy to forget when
yeah.
you are out there in the vast skies seeking,
Yeah, for sure. I could totally relate to that.
right?
You wrote an amazing book of, they're all poems, right?
I
It's
have
all,
it here.
yeah.
Permission to feel.
I'm like, I would love for you. You read one to me the other day, and man, it made my whole body tingle.
Oh,
And I would love for you to share whatever you feel called to share, if you want to share a little bit.
can I preface it a little? So,
Yes,
because it all ties in. This is the
yes,
beauty. It's perfect that we're so organic here, and I love
yeah.
that. It's my method of conversation. So thank you for being a perfect
Well, thank
hostess
you.
in that respect. I think I've shared with you before that this linear thing just doesn't work for me, and my human design actually proves that. So
Yeah,
it's very assuring that I'm not, needing to be anything I'm not, right? I just giving my own self permission. But here's the interesting thing. So kind of intercepting between the onset journey of motherhood and conscious parenting and doing inner child work and deconditioning and really trying to learn, the cruxes of my wounds and where I've projected so much in that ego space with my own kid and whatnot.
yeah,
Um, and then somewhere in between that and human design, right? This soul's voice was needing to be brought to life. And because I don't work from a logical way, it's not like I have to sit and do this in some template format. The way of my own healing became writing. And it's interesting, Karissa, because I write in my preface, it's a very vulnerable preface, like, I didn't even know I had this gift.
yeah,
Honestly, it's not anything I contemplated. It was not like I hired a coach. It's not like I had this mission and I'm like, I gotta write a book. The book wrote me. And it may sound a little like woo woo for people that are just venturing into this. And maybe 10 years from now, if somebody listens to this, they're like, duh, that's like the way everybody does it. And I'll be
yeah,
like, woohoo, I was just a little here before. So, but for anyone that's like somewhere in between, like I get it, but I'm not so sure. I'm here to kind of bring a grounded reality that, and part of even recognizing the gifts of my own design and my own being is that I'm a very creative being. And one of the ways I'm here to bring expression in different ways is writing. And it's to tell stories. And I have these energy centers in me that are so open that they speak into the souls of other people. Again, I didn't know any of this, but as I've written these over the course of 2.5 years,
yeah,
the reflections I've gotten back from people, the resonance is, you're talking to me. Like, you're so in my soul space. Like, and it's not an ego thing like, oh, I'm so great. I'm so glad that my own healing is healing you.
yeah,
That the way that I was given this wiring to kind of message my own creativity and be cathartic for my own self can lend, like a little stent into wherever your wound is and just help
yeah.
you breathe a little bit, right? But a lot of this poetry came during the time I was in Colorado with our family. We lived there for a very short period of time. And our daughter was really going through a heightened experience biomedically. And this was still part of the journey of, things that we had learned around her gut brain struggles and things like that. At the time, I called it special needs.
Uh-huh.
And by the time I finished the book, I changed it to more needs because I evolved through it. I was learning a lot differently. And I recognize even just saying that, it felt like it was a happy medium between what I was experiencing, but really giving people an insight to like a window into what we were working through, and that it wasn't this, typical tantrum,
Yeah,
right? So I call it more needs. And it's interesting because even now that it's out and published, right? And things are evolving, I can even see clearly that a lot of this is just her natural wiring. She's just a very gifted kid in her own way in different
Yeah.
respects. But at the time, I couldn't know what I didn't know. And what I needed to know was, how do I channel this energy through me so I can receive, accept, be whole, embody, and truly love unconditionally without expectation
Yeah.
and anxiety, and yet be human and allow myself the moments I needed to really reconcile and reckon with this journey I was given as a mom. And so when I had my shitty days, I had them, and it was okay, no matter the path of awakening I was on. So these poems are literally like in the moment from my couch on a phone. And I would just, in 5 to 10 minutes, they would write me and I would hit send. And they compiled over 2.5 years. I had no intention of putting them in a book. Over time, people would be like, I hope you're writing a book. And I'm like, oh, like I got time for that, people. I don't think so. Do you know my path that I'm on? Do you realize what I've been called to? You think I'm doing a book? And the moment met itself. And it was 2 years ago, this August, I signed a contract with a self-publishing company, and the words permission to feel, because that was really my gift to me, saying to Sandra, you can feel and you have that capacity, and don't shame yourself for it. And so it's inspirational poems for your awakened consciousness, and it encompasses over 140 poems, and they're storytelling.
Yes.
And they're very
powerful, beautiful.
Oh, you're so sweet. No, I mean, you're sweet. They're sweet, and they're very concise. They're bite-sized wisdom. So it's a compilation. Even in the back of my book, it says that it's a collection of many reflections in a storytelling fashion from her motherhood journey, daily encounters in the world, interactions with her coaching clients, personal interpretations of wisdom teachings, and her attempts to balance life as a whole between her humanness and spirit. So it's a real spectrum. It's not just mom stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I will read into it. And my invitation to anybody who feels called, whether you like poetry or not, because I didn't think I was a poet. I still am. Call me a poet, whatever. It's just the way it shows itself, you know?
Yes.
But I didn't go to poetry school. I didn't take classical writing. I didn't study poets. You know, this is just a proof that like we all have something in us, and when it's meant to be shared, we have to bring life to it. So let me see which one. I don't know. I've got several tabs, but let me feel into. Do you have a preference?
I'm like, you could just ask for some guidance. What?
Okay. Yeah.
Like which, I mean, really just whatever your heart feels called to share.
I opened this one.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's called Sometimes It Feels Too Heavy. This is a very relatable poem to anyone and everyone on the path of awakening. I don't care what your journey is, but I'm sure you can relate. Sometimes it feels too heavy, the weight we are carrying around. Whether it's physical or emotional, the force of our burdens pulls us down. Sometimes it feels unfair, the responsibilities in which we've been given. However, we've inherited the role. We must not lose ourselves in it. Sometimes it feels scary, the not knowing what is to come, yet trusting blindly with belief. The universe always wants what's best for us. Sometimes it feels scarce. The funds are running low. With expenses building up, we struggle to be in abundant flow. Sometimes it feels lonely, the path in which we walk. When we want to connect with others, they are unable to truly support us. Sometimes it feels too heavy, the expectations we put on ourselves. When we can be more self-compassionate, the weight of the world we carry will begin to melt.
That resonated with me like so much. And I know it's going to resonate with everybody. And I felt it. Of course, I felt it. I told you, don't downplay your work. I'm like, because like it is amazing and it is powerful. I'm like, I wish I could just, I mean, like we said the other day, I'm like, literally, like, I will tell you how amazing you are anytime, because you are. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that you get to share that. And I mean, like, it really did so resonate with me. So
Thank you. To go back and read this through the manuscript process, it met me at a whole different place, right? Because when you write the poem in the moment, it has its purpose. And then you're
yeah,
manuscripting and you're like, that came out of me. And then, your ego's like, that came out of me. And then you're like, but your soul's like, but that's always what was meant to come out of you. Like,
yeah,
this is your journey.
yeah,
So I refer to it as well. And I have to be reminded of the very wisdom that lives within me to guide others. And we
yeah,
all have this living wisdom. See, this is not unique to one person. So that's my invitation, is to remind each person to find, whether it's through human design guide, whether, it's some,
yeah,
human design or gene keys or just your inner knowing,
yeah,
whatever that vehicle is, moments like this, sharing, hearing something that just enlightens you. It is the notion of don't dim your light, right? Because it's so
yeah,
easy to.
yeah. Well, we get to be here to support people, and it's powerful, for us and for other people, for us to share, our gifts with people and
Absolutely.
allow them to experience us.
Well, the work you're doing just alone, Karissa, speaks volumes, that you've put yourself out there equally. And, just to create this platform to bring more people to the mix and to the masses. And, again, just very humbling and open-heartedly saying to people, like, don't hide, you're not alone, and we're all in this together,
Yeah,
and there's a story everywhere, and maybe this one resonates with you and this one does. And so
yeah,
thank you for daring courageously to, like, do the work that it takes to put a summit together. This stuff isn't easy.
yeah. Thank you so much. Definitely, I've
Yes.
got to face my own stuff through it, and that's where we get to grow. And thank you. I mean, that's really what it is. I want people to be loved and accepted for who they were, for who they are, because I didn't
Yes.
feel that, and I had to do a lot of work, and still get to continually do that work to be in that space where I can reach people, because I know that's what my heart wants to do. I know, like,
Absolutely.
we didn't go through our stuff so we could keep it inside of ourselves.
That's
So
right.
I'm
The
so
universe didn't give it to us just to, like, earn a badge somewhere that we just tuck away in the attic and get some dust on it. And
yeah,
it really, when you receive the calling, whatever that is, however you've been, ushered into this awakening, just like our kids come and awaken us, and this whole consciousness of the planet is evolving and transmuting in so many ways. But um, I truly believe this, and I know this in the cells of my being, like, it's not about me. It's never been about me. It's not about my kid. It's never about, it's, the less that we make it about us, we can make it about the us of the world,
yeah,
like everybody. And, we have to be careful, because there's a lot out there that's convincing. And when people are desperate and they are seeking, it's so easy to clench your teeth in anything. But you got to pay attention to really the truth within you, and ask questions, and
yeah,
dare greatly, really, like Brene Brown says, like, and for me, it's like, dare to disrupt. Shefali's done that. Like, I feel that's what I'm here to do too. And we
yeah,
all just have a different way of bringing that into, existence, however. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much. Is there is there anything that we didn't touch on that your heart feels called to share about? I'm like,
I think I got about 5 years out of 48. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, sweetie. I think we did. And hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming. And if you're to all listening or watching, if you have any questions, I'm one with you. I'm reachable, I'm accessible.
yes,
I can offer any guidance, assistance. This is my life's work and path. So I do coaching and human design guide readings, and my poetry is its own healing mechanism. So
yes,
however I can touch you deeper, I'm here. Reach out to me, I would say. Yeah, because
yes.
I don't know if I made as much sense to some people, but hopefully I made a little sense.
Yeah, well, you definitely had a lot of groundedness in the stuff that you shared. So I appreciate that, because it does. I want to reach the people who are new on their journey. I want you to
Yeah.
get connected with the people who you could support. And I mean, one thing I had to learn is, like, I'm not supposed to support everybody. Like, like, we can't. we can't change people. We can only change ourselves and be that, and then allow other people to be, you know, affected by us. Not definitely had to go through some of my own shifts in that. So I just so appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you more.
I don't know.
I don't know. We can battle this out, girl. We can spend 10 minutes just having a little battle and ask the audience to see who won. No, I'm joking.
I like absolutely love and adore you.
Wow.
And
I'm so grateful we were connected the way we were.
And
that tells a story how close we all really are, you know, this fractal line of life, you know, like the right people will come back to, like what you said, not helping everyone. When people are ready, they'll show up and you'll receive the right people. The right people will watch this. And I say right, like the people that are most ready to receive. And that's in anything: human design, conscious parenting, reading, you know, transforming, you know, taking a course. Like, I knew I was ready to grow into things just like you were. That's why we are doing these kinds of different, you know, platforms of work. So well, let's see where it goes.
Well, I mean, everybody who is connected here to us receiving this message, get connected with her. If anything sounds great to you and you feel called to reach out to her, she is absolutely amazing, I swear.
Thank you, my love.
And so kind, you know, and I think that's one of the most important things, is just staying kind and knowing that this isn't all, I mean, really it's hard in this world, but this isn't about us. It's about what we can give and put out into this world, and what we can create for other people to just heal and, you know, learn more about themselves and transform. And so thank you again.
Absolutely.
And then also, if you want to touch on, she has that free gift that she's offering.
Can I share where to reach me?
Yes,
that's okay,
for sure.
I don't know if it's in links and stuff. But
so we'll put it in a link on the summit, but also you can share whatever, you know, you want to share.
So just my name, Sandra Fazio, just as you'll see it in the scripts, .com is my main website. So in there, there'll be several different places to see my work. Human design is still being integrated. I haven't yet done that. I'm working on getting that part of my website created. But you can always email me separately within the contact button of that. And if not, my email is just the name Sandra at sandrafazio.com. And then I'm reachable on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I have 2 pages. And I don't even know the handles. They're somewhere. They're somewhere on my website. That's how great of a marketer I am. So there you go.
Well, they can definitely get connected with you through the summit. So
perfect.
They'll be able to follow that. And I'm sure you probably have links to, or can connect them.
I will send whatever you need, my dear. Yeah, absolutely. We'll make it as easy as pie for people so they don't have to spend too long searching based on their interests. So, and thank you for all of this. I'm just so excited for it to, you know, be out there and to see how it grows. And I love the name of your summit. So
thank you.
What an honor.
Thank you for sharing human design on here for the first time as well.
I know. This is kind of new for me. I was like, I don't know what's going to come out. We'll see. But I hope it made a little sense. People can still research and learn.
Yes. And you gave some great information for them to go do a little bit of research on their own too there. So that's awesome. So thank you all again. And thank you. I appreciate you and I love you. And
I echo your sentiments.
Okay. All right. So thank you all, and get connected with Sandra. And thanks again, and have an amazing day wherever you're at.